Building an autonomous AI assistant used to require a team of developers. Today, using Salesforce Agentforce, you can deploy a highly capable digital teammate through a simple visual interface. In this video, I'll show you the exact foundational workflow to get your first agent online, from enabling the core system and setting permissions to establishing the exact logic it needs to succeed. And always remember, always start in a demo org, so all of this that I'm going to show you next is in a controlled environment, it's not in the production system. So let's dive into the back end of Agentforce. So the first place I'd recommend to start is in the Salesforce Trailhead itself. The first one is configure Agentforce for service, and I'll leave the link to this below. And you'll set up your own playground. It's a really nice, safe place to start learning how to use Agentforce. And you can work through this Agentforce tutorial itself on how to set up your own Agentforce agent. The next one is Agentforce latest release update. So you can go here to get yourself across what the new layout will look like and how you can build those agents in that system. So assuming that you've got your own developer or playground org now, the first place you can start is go to Salesforce Go. So if you go into setup and type in Salesforce Go, you can see here it brings up this screen. And then you can search for Agentforce default. And when you click on that, it will take you through to a step-by-step guide on how to set it all up. So you just follow this through step by step. And this is just a really simple, intuitive way to get your Agentforce agent up and running. So the parts to this setup are Einstein setup. So when you go into setup again, type in Einstein setup and it'll bring up this page, and just make sure that that is toggled to on. Once you've got that set up, refresh your browser, and then you can go to Agentforce agents in the setup section as well, and make sure Agentforce toggle is turned to on. And then it will give you this screen here. So you can see here I've got a couple of different agents that have been built, and that will show up once you've toggled that to on. Another really important part is giving the users access to the agent itself. So in the permission sets, there's this default one that gets set up called Access Agentforce Default Agent. I always like to create my own custom one to give me a more tailored approach to setting up my agents. So once you've toggled Einstein setup on and Agentforce on, go into permission sets and I click on clone, and then I set up my own one. So you can see here, Architas Access Agentforce Employee Agents, and then you can assign that to the different users so that when you go into use Agentforce, this little Agentforce avatar pops up in the top here. So once you've got all of that set up, we can then go into one of the agents itself and we can start building. So I'd recommend starting off with the employee agents, which are internally facing agents that can assist your users internally with case information or relating to opportunities or donor management. They're not client facing, so they won't manage cases with your clients. They won't be deployed on your website, managing inquiries like a chatbot would. So I recommend starting off learning about the employee agents first, as that will give you really good insight as to how the nuts and bolts work in the background. So once you click on one of your agents from this screen here, it will load up this part here, and this just gives you a bit of an overview as to what the agent is. Then you can click Open in Builder and it will bring you through to this section here. So just to give you a bit of an overview of what this screen is. So this used to be topics. So sub agents, you've got your main agent name up here, and then within that you've got sub agents. So think of this like the job description itself. You've got a case management assistant. If this was a real human that you were employing as a case management assistant, you'd give them a job description. So I think of these sub agents, or the topics as they used to be called, as the main parts of that job description. I want them to develop a care plan. I want them to be responsible for case management, and I want them to be aware of the client advocacy procedures and be able to advise their colleagues on these items. So think of the sub agents as those core parts of the job description itself. And it's really useful to write these out before you start developing them. So let's click into one of these now. And then you can see here, you've got more information that we can add in to that specific sub-agent. So classification description. This allows the agent to know when to trigger this certain sub-agent. So in this section here, you should be very clear on what this sub-agent is designed to do. The scope, this gives the agent an idea of what is the scope of their role within this part of the job description. It tells them what they can do as part of this sub-agent. And then in the instructions, these are very specific things that you want the agent to be aware of. So you think of these as like guardrails, ways to tackle the job. Again, this is more guidance that you give to a human employee as how to do this part of the job that they're doing. So this is the how, the when, and the what. Within the sub-agent itself, you've also got Subagent Actions. So think of these as the tools of the job. So these would be flows, there'd be Apex, there'd be prompt templates, These are the tools of the job that the agent needs to be able to carry out the things you're asking it to do. If I was to ask a human to go and research a client for me so they can come back with the next recommended steps, the human would go, I need to go and do research. So that's the sub-agent, that's the topic, that's part of the job description, researching the client. Then what are the tools for the job? The tools for the job are, I need a laptop to go and do the research. I need to be able to phone the client to understand more about their case so that I can support them. So these are the actions. It's the tools for the job, the specific things that they need to do to carry out that part of the job description. So the sub-agent is that higher level. This is what we need to do as part of the job. The actions are the tools for the job to go and execute that action or to go and execute that topic, that sub-agent that we've just spoken about. So once you've set those up, you've then got this middle ground here that is blank at the moment. And over here, you've got the conversation preview window. And in this conversation preview window, this is where you can start to test your agent itself. So you can see here, can you tell me about the interaction summaries for case? And then I've got the record ID here. Just to let you know, when you're in the case itself, when you ask the agent in this bit, you don't need to put in the record ID because you can configure it to look up the ID based on the case that you're in at the moment. Because we're in a testing window, it's got no context. So we'll give it the context of that case. Then it will analyze that case and give me a summary of that case as I've asked it to do. And then in the middle section here, you can see this is all of the things that it's carried out to give you this information. So this is what you'd see as a user in the interface itself. This is the output that you would get. This is the middle bit. So when you're doing testing, you can see based on this question, has it selected the right sub-agent, the right topic as it used to be called? And then it's going to run through the different actions that are available to it. And then it's used the Atlas reasoning engine to select the correct action to give you the output that you want. So it's launched here the case analysis action, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. And then we can see here all of the details that it's gone through to give us this output on the right-hand side. And then this is the actual output itself. And then we see it in this window in a much more nicely displayed format because we've built it on a prompt template itself. And here you can see suggest improvements. So for instance, if it came up with the wrong action or if it gave you an output that wasn't expected, you can suggest an improvement to try and improve the performance of your agent. So once you've gone through your testing and you're happy with the outputs that you're getting, this bit up here would say activate. Mine says deactivate because mine's already activated, but you can activate it and then live in your system here in your demo org or your playground. When you click on this here, it will bring this up. And then you can go through exactly the same process in the case itself, just to double check that it works here. So again, I'm putting in this prompt here. Can you tell me about the interaction summaries for this case? Notice I haven't used the record ID for this one. And it will go through and do that analysis for us and give us that summary of the case. We've successfully walked through the core steps required to enable, secure, configure, and activate your very first Agentforce agent. By organizing your organizational goals into defined topics or sub-agents as they're now called, and actions, you give your agent the structured focus it needs to be an effective partner to your team. If this guide helped you, subscribe for more weekly deep dives, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter in the description below. And if you want to learn what a client-facing service agent might look like for your organization, I'll link to that now above here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.